Bonjour tout le monde. Today we are going to be looking at the perfect tense in French. The perfect tense is used to say something that happened in the past. In English, we might use versions such as I played, I ate, or we watched. In English, we form the perfect tense by using the pronoun I or we, he or she, and creating a past participle, usually with ed on the end. So I played or we watched. Sometimes these verbs are irregular. We don't say I swimmed, we say I swam. And the same thing applies in French. However, there are some slightly different steps. First of all, instead of just using a pronoun, in French we use what's called the auxiliary verb. Most of the time, this is the verb avoir in the present tense, and we're going to be looking at this format today. The second part of forming the past tense, or the perfect tense in French, is creating your past participle. Whereas in English we put an ed on the end most of the time, in French for er verbs, which are the verbs we are looking at in today's video, we take off the er and we add an e accent. So let's have a little look. Here we have our auxiliary verb avoir, which some of you may have seen before in year 7 when we were learning about hair and eyes. I have brown hair, or she has blue eyes, for example. This is the verb avoir here. J'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, on a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, and elles ont. And over here are just 3 little examples of forming the past participle for regular ER verbs. So here we've got manger, the infinitive. To make ate instead of to eat, we've taken our ER off the end and we've put an E accent. Jouer, the same thing applies, E accent on the end. And here we've created our past participle for écouter by taking off the ER and adding an E accent. You might notice that they're pronounced the same way. An infinitive and a past participle here are pronounced just exactly the same. Manger and manger. This can make it difficult when we hear them or when we're thinking of what to write in our heads, and it can mean sometimes that we forget to put our accent on or we leave the ER on. And this is something we need to be really careful about. One final thing for us to look at on our information sheet here, which is also in your booklet, are these time phrases. These are going to be really useful when we're writing and talking about the past. You've got 6 of them here to look at. Hier, yesterday, la semaine dernière, last week, le week-end dernier, last weekend. We've then got le matin, le midi, and l'après-midi for our times of the day. Finally, these are 2 very important past tense verbs that are irregular. We just need to know them off by heart. Je suis allé, meaning I went, and c'était, meaning it was. We will see how we can use these later on. Let's have a look then first at some common mistakes that students make when forming the perfect tense. Here I've got some examples. We're going to try and spot where the mistake is and see if we can correct it. In the first example, we've got j'ai joué au football. We've got our auxiliary verb, j'ai. We can see avoir here, I have. Here we want to have our past participle, but something is missing. We don't have an accent on our E, and therefore this says I have play rather than I have played. To correct it, we would need to write j'ai joué. Okay, let's look at another example. Il mangeait une pizza. Here we're looking for our auxiliary verb and our past participle. I can see straight away that I do have my past participle. That's brilliant. But I don't have my auxiliary verb. I've just got il on its own. This is a common mistake because it's what we do in English, but remember in French we need our full auxiliary verb, il a, the verb avoir. So here, to correct this piece of work, we would need to add in the verb avoir. So we would need il a mangé. Okay, in our third example, what's happened here? Nous avons achète. Have we got our auxiliary verb? Yes, we have. We've got we have, the verb avoir. Have we got our past participle? No, we haven't. We're missing an accent on our past participle. This should read nous avons acheté. Okay, at this point, if you think you've got to grips with how to correct these, pause the video and have a go yourself. I'm going to carry on. If you would like a bit more practice with me, you can follow with me. If not, you can pause and come back and check your work at the end. Okay. J'ai envoyé des photos. I sent some photos is what this person wants to say, but they are missing their past participle. They've got their auxiliary verb, but they are missing their accent. So we want j'ai envoyé with an E accent. This one's a bit trickier. We've got ils avons téléchargé de la musique. Il and avons don't go together. We'll have to look at that. Is télécharger my past participle? Absolutely, it's got an E accent on it. So we're going to look at our verb avoir. Il avons isn't going to work. We're either going to need il a or nous avons. Doesn't matter which way you correct it, as long as you have one of those options. We either need il a or nous avons, so that our pronoun matches our auxiliary verb. Okay, the next one, letter E. Nous a mangé, same thing. We've got our past participle, that's great, but our auxiliary verb doesn't look right to me. Nous goes with what? Let's have a check. We can always look back to our information sheet. Nous goes with avons. So we either need nous avons, or if we wanted to keep the auxiliary, we would need to change our pronoun. So let's do that. We either need nous avons, or we need il or elle or on a manger. Any of those corrections would be correct. Here again, we've got our past participle in the next one. Brilliant, partager. But elle and a don't go together with the verb avoir. We will check again. If we've got a, we're working with je for j'ai. And if we've got elle, we should have a in the middle there. So let's correct that. We should either have j'ai or elle a partagé. And for our final example, je écoutais. Have we got our past participle? Yes. Have we got our auxiliary verb? No, we've just got the pronoun je. So we're going to correct that and we're going to make it j'ai écouté. Well done, guys. With all of this in mind, let's now see if we can't do one or two translations ourselves. I'm going to do the first two with you at the end of this video, and then you have this worksheet in your booklets. So with all the information we have seen together, you will be able to work through the rest of these examples either with your teacher in class or at home. There are 10 here. Don't forget, you've got your information sheet to help you with your time phrases, your irregular verbs, your auxiliary, and your past participle. So let's look at number one together. I played football. We want our auxiliary, which is going to be j'ai, I have. We know that the verb to play is jouer. It's an ER verb, but we're going to take the ER off and put an E accent to make it a past participle. And we're going to put football at the end, which we saw in our free time topic of year 7. I ate a croissant. Same thing, we've got I, so we need our auxiliary verb. I have, j'ai. Ate, we want the verb to eat, which is manger. We take the ER off the end, we put an E accent on the end, and we put in un croissant, which again we saw in our food topic in year 7. So lots of language we can reuse. I'm going to skip the next one because it's an I one again. You can come back to that. Let's look at this one. He downloaded a film. He. What am I going to need for he? I'm going to check my auxiliary verb. He. I need il a. Il a downloaded. We've seen that up here in our previous example. Télécharger. A verb you're going to use lots in this media topic. Un film. Why don't you have a go now at the rest and see if you can complete them in your lesson. I'm going to write in the answers and you can come back and check. This one you would need to check your sheet for that irregular verb, je suis allé. And Norwich. And again, it was on our sheet as an irregular verb. So check your answers, and there you have it, the perfect tense of ER verbs in French. Au revoir.